Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another 5-minute Bible study today through Leviticus chapter 5. There's a link down in the description where you can get the free PDF that you're going to see up on the screen and a bunch of other resources, verse-by-verse Bible studies through the Gospels. And we're going to be picking up on Acts chapter 3 again here soon. I know that we've been on a little bit of a hiatus from Acts, but soon to come. Okay, Leviticus 5. When did these events happen? Leviticus picks up right where Exodus left off. The children of Israel, or the Israelite people, were on their way out of Egypt, on their way to the promised land, or the Canaan land. God gave Moses and the Israelites all of these instructions that are recorded in Leviticus in approximately 1490 BC. Moving on into our definitions section, the first word that we have is the ephah. We're going to read about it. It's a standard of measurement. The ephah was equivalent to approximately 22 liters or 5.8 gallons. And then a ram. If you grew up around livestock, you're already going to know this, but for us city slickers like me that didn't, a ram is the name for a male sheep. A female sheep is known as a ewe. It's funny, I was talking to my Albanian teacher, and she was asking me why we have all these strange names for like different animals, and then like depending on their age, they can be different, and then the group of animals, like we have like a flock or a herd or a gander or a pride of lions. And she's like, why is this necessary? Why is English so hard? And I never really realized that we had all these terms. But, the names of like sheep depend on the gender, sometimes the age for cattle, and I don't know. Those are mysteries to solve at another time, but now let's move on to our outline. Our first section, we're going to talk about the sin offering a little bit more and some options for people who were poor and maybe couldn't afford as much. This is verses 1 through 13. So if an Israelite man sinned by not testifying to a crime that he witnessed or that he knew about, unknowingly touching something that was unclean, or speaking a rash or a reckless vow, when he finally realized his guilt, he was to bring a female goat or a female lamb to the priest to be offered as a sin offering. If the man couldn't afford a lamb or a goat, then he was to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one for a sin offering and the other one for a burnt offering. The priest was to wring off the head of the first bird, put some of the blood on the altar, drain out the rest of the blood on the side of the altar, and then he was to offer the first pigeon or turtle dove as a sin offering. The second bird was to be offered as a burnt offering. Now, if a man couldn't afford a goat, a lamb, 2 turtle doves, or 2 pigeons, then he was to bring a 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a sin offering. A 1/10 of an ephah would be approximately 2.2 liters. It was the fine flour that he brought was not to include oil. It was not to include frankincense because it was supposed to be a sin offering. The priest was to sacrifice a handful of this flour on the altar, and the remainder of the flour was to be kept by the priest. And then in our second section, verses 14 through 19, laws for guilt offerings. So if a man committed a breach of faith and sinned unintentionally in any of, quote, the holy things of the Lord, he was to bring a ram to the tabernacle as a guilt offering, or as we mentioned, a male sheep. It can be difficult to distinguish the difference between the sin offering and the guilt offering. We'll get more clarity as we go throughout the book of Leviticus, but notice here, this is sin regarding a breach of faith or an offense against the holy things of the Lord. So this man was not only to bring his ram, but he was also to make restitution for whatever mistake he had made, any damages that he has caused, and he was to add a 1/5 to the total when he paid that restitution. The priest would then make atonement for his sin, and he would be forgiven. And now finally for our application. God has always cared less about the substance of our sacrifices and more about the heart of the one offering the sacrifice. An Israelite who brought flour as a sin offering was just as forgiven as an Israelite who brought a lamb or a goat. We see this same principle coming up in the New Testament, especially when we meet the widow with 2 mites or the widow with 2 copper coins, who we're introduced to in Mark chapter 12, verse 41 through 44. Jesus didn't care about the monetary value of her offering. He cared about the heart of the one doing the offering. He said in verses 43 through 44, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box, for they all contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty has put in everything she had, all she had to live on." God is pleased with you when your heart belongs to Him. Those who contribute the least may be the most pleasing to God, and those who contribute the most, monetarily speaking, may be very far from God. So the application for us, let's never judge people when we hear coins dropping into the collection tray. And those of you who have spent any time in churches will know what I'm talking about, right? The clang of those coins in the bottom of the offering tray may be a very sweet sound to God.